Study Section 8, Administration and Provision of Trade Union Education. Introduction. In this study session, we will be discussing the administration and provision of trade union education. You will explain how agitators of union education attempt to provide union education for their members. In addition, you will highlight the principles of labor education learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to discuss how to achieve effective administration of union education. Explain the methods of providing union education. Administration of trade union education. We have observed that trade union education can be provided by different bodies. This could include the workers' movement, non-governmental bodies, and government. We shall preoccupy ourselves in this session with how any of the three agents can provide and administer trade union education. But we shall note that the variety of the modes of provision of trade union education shows that the administration will be somewhat complex. However, this complexity can be reduced with effective administration. For effective administration of trade union education, the first major problem is to identify new practices for financing the program. The new principles, though valid but are not yet applied in most countries. These principles may be summarized thus: 1. Workers' education or trade union education is an important factor of the educational system. 2. Society as a whole can benefit from better industrial relations, improved health and safety, and greater productivity, so that public money may legitimately be given to trade union education. 3. Employers particularly can benefit from good trade union education, so that they can contribute to the development of the union. 4. Trade unions and trade unionists certainly can benefit, so they should be willing to bear some of the costs. Having a good chart for the trade union education is not the end of the administration of the program. For effective monitoring of the success, take 2, of the successes or failure of the program, a sort of evaluative device should be introduced which will elicit the following information. 1. A continuous feedback during the course, the enthusiasm, the level of discussion of students' interest and involvement. 2. The level of attendance of this course. This is seldom a problem in trade union education, but if the group is getting smaller, then something must be wrong. 3. A single individual evaluation questionnaire to grade the various components of the course according to a 4-point or 5-point rating. The answers may prove embarrassing than to lose a group of worker students forever. 4. A questionnaire at the end of the course. 5. Forms to record names and addresses and trade union functions so that follow-up activities and a full evaluation can be carried out in subsequent years. 6. Finally, a systematic follow-up survey of former students, for example, of 2 to 5 years interval. Providing union education. It has not been possible to have a clear-cut format for the provision of labor education, a fact which is due to the many providing bodies, the problem of definition and differentiation, and allied causes. In Nigeria, it is a difficult task to even have an accurate figure of the expenses. For instance, figures from union sources are never accurate, and funds from both government and employers are usually allocated to workers' education generally. Hence, the amount spent on union education as a separate unit may be difficult to calculate. Generally, it has not been possible in the developing countries in general, and Nigeria in particular, to develop a system of financing labor education. In some countries of the world, however, new practices of financing labor education are now taken as axiomatic, while in a few others, attention is being paid to the issue. The principles behind this development as stated by a Swedish labor officer, LO, may be summarized as follows. 1. Workers' education is an important sector of the educational system. 2. Society as a whole can benefit from better industrial relations, improved health and safety, and greater productivity, so public money may legitimately perhaps should be given to workers' education. 3. Employers particularly can benefit from good workers' education so that they can contribute their own quota. 4. Trade unions and trade unionists certainly can benefit, so they should be willing to bear some of the cost. Labor education generally benefits not only the producers, that is, the unions, the government, and the employers. It is of immense benefit to industry, the nation, and the world in that with education, the incidence of injustice and tension is reduced to the barest minimum. And for labor education to achieve its envisaged objectives, certain variables must be considered by the educator. Such variables would include 1. Assessing the need for such education. Such needs may be union, industry, or national in scope and content. 2. Fixing the general objectives to be met by the program. 3. Long-term program outlines and short-term priorities. 4. Identifying and counseling different types of worker students. 5. Planning graded progressive programs for these types. 6. Selecting and training or arranging the training of suitable resource persons. 7. Giving specific briefing to the resource persons. 8. Determining and organizing activities, date, time, place, etc. 9. Arranging the publicity. 10. Supervising the courses. 11. Arranging the evaluation and follow-up activities. 12. Creating a library, providing study materials, and setting up a research and documentation service. 13. Publishing a small newsletter. 14. Crusading for and obtaining one or more workers' education centers. 15. Recruiting a team of willing and able helpers or organizers or teachers. 16. Delegating duties and yet keeping an eye on things, etc. Principles of labor education. The essential principles of labor education as identified by Hawkins stress the methods of the practice which should 1. Be student and problem-centered rather than subject-centered. 2. Deal with the old problems regardless of subject divisions. 3. Build up the confidence of the student. 4. Train students systematically in the basic skills and techniques of the study. 5. Make use of students' past experience. 6. Work from the known to the unknown. 7. Allow for the fact that different students will learn at different rates. 8. Work from the concrete to the abstract. 9. Allow for the fact that there are plateau of learning which is to be hoped are a period of subconscious consolidation. 10. Allow for the need to overlearn, that is, to revise and reinforce. 11. Stress especially the reproduction or application of what has been learned. 12. Make use of all suitable media, tools, and techniques. 13. Allow for the fact that things heard and seen are forgotten sooner than things done. 14. Always entail a cooperative partnership between tutor and student with active participation by the whole group. 15. Use every opportunity for practical work, especially work with clear social value. In addition to the above basic principles, the agitators of labor education should always remember that workers want to participate in labor education because they want their own clear objectives. Hence, it is the responsibility of the agitators to discuss students' interests and objectives as well as the aims of their program during the recruitment process. Workers also learn best when they know that their teachers are sympathetic to their objectives. This is why we should know our students personally as friends. They also learn best when they are treated as adults and equals with their own experience. They also benefit more from courses relevant to their lives. Adult workers also learn best when they are encouraged to ask questions and argue freely, and when they can practice as they learn and there are repetition and revision. Furthermore, they are more comfortable with learning when they receive a feedback of their performance and know that they are progressing. As a result of the above, agitators should create a friendly and informal atmosphere, arrange frequent discussion, plan carefully any information giving sessions, allow full participation of the student, and so on. This is why Henry Deman is of the view that the methods of education of adult workers must be radically different from those practiced in schools and universities. They do not accept instructions by ex cathedra. Their critical faculty is strongly developed by contact with real life. They have often far more common sense and experience of life than the majority of university professors. This is why the man argues further that the starting point should be the varied experience of the adult workers, since experience is the only source of knowledge. For the adult workers, training must also be based on concrete data on the present situations from which the historical, social, and political background can be reconstructed. It must be remembered also that adult workers, students, need certain skills more than they need information or ideology. This is not to say that more information, particularly in specialized fields, is not relevant. This is why trainers must always remember that rather than imparting information, the goal should be skilled development. Such skills may be listening, reading, collecting information, considering, verifying, finding solutions, decision making, analyzing, communicating, and so on. Since experience is the only source of knowledge, this is why the ILO 1962 opines that the best method of training in workers' management is the active participation of hundreds and thousands of workers in the proceedings of the workers' management bodies. In labor education, there is also the need for flexibility and willingness to adjust to any arising situations. Sometimes, the trainer might discover that experience of his student might render his preparation inappropriate under such circumstances. He is expected to adjust to suit his audience. It is not wholesome to try to export your armchair solution and expect your audience to swallow it hook, line, and sinker without the necessary consideration of the backgrounds of the students, the goal setting, and the organizational needs. Study section summary. In this study session, you discussed the administration and provision of trade union education. You started by discussing the hindrances to effective administration of trade union education in Nigeria. You went further to explain the major difficulties encountered in providing labor education. Finally, you highlighted the basic principles of labor education. This is the end of study section 8. Thanks for listening.